So, I recently dealt with something no veteran should ever have to say out loud. My flag was burned on my own porch, and the HOA tried to fine me. And the reason? They called it emotional clutter. Funny thing is, the only thing that ended up getting removed was them when the Marines showed up. Let me start from the beginning. Before we dive in, let me know where you're listening from today. The first thing I smelled was smoke. The second was memory. It hit sharp and sour, like burning paint and something worse, like regret with a fuel line. Not campfire smoke, not a barbecue. This was the smell of fabric catching fast, the kind that shouldn't be burning, the kind that means someone crossed a line. I was already on the porch, coffee in hand. I froze, scanning the wind. It was coming from behind the HOA office, low, angry smoke curling up like it was trying to sneak away. Then something fell, red, white, blackened at the edge. A curled triangle landed in the parking lot, fluttered once, then stopped moving. I knew that shape, knew it in my bones. My legs were moving before I told them to. The coffee mug hit the cement with a crack. I didn't flinch, just walked. When I got to the dumpster, I didn't even have to look inside. I could see it all spilling out. Glass, wood, cloth, melted metal, and right there, half folded, still holding its shape in defiance, my flag, the one from my last deployment, the one I'd kept on the porch every Memorial Day since the day I stopped wearing a uniform. The glass case was cracked through, frame burned, one corner of the flag singed clean through. I picked it up. It didn't feel like a flag anymore. It felt like betrayal. I stood there in the smoke, breathing slow. My fingers didn't shake, my voice didn't rise. But in my head, everything was already loud. I turned and walked straight to the HOA office. Karen looked up from her desk. Seafoam blouse, smug smile, clipboard already cocked like a weapon. "Frank, what a surprise." I held up the case, smoke still trailing off the frame. "This yours?" She blinked. "I'm sorry?" "This was taken from my porch last night, and someone lit it on fire." Karen stood up slowly, smile dialed down just enough to look concerned. "Oh no, that's just awful. Was it secured properly?" "It was locked in a case, bolted to the railing." "Well," she said, tilting her head like a customer service robot, "we did have a recent vote about property uniformity. Decorative displays, especially outdated or politically sensitive ones, they need to be reviewed for harmony." I stared at her. That flag went through combat, through funerals. It's not decoration, it's not a lawn gnome. Karen's voice dropped half a tone. "Let's not get emotional, Frank." "You think this is emotion?" I stepped closer. "This is practice. You'd know the difference." The door behind me creaked open. Teddy strolled in, flip-flops flapping, bag of powdered donuts in one hand. "Smells like HOA drama and old yogurt. You brewing something in here, Karen?" Karen exhaled through her nose. "Mr. Jennings, this is an official office." "Which is wild," Teddy said, grinning, "because it looks like a supply closet married a Starbucks." I didn't look back. "We're not here for coffee." Karen folded her arms. "If you have a grievance, it should be filed online." "You burned a combat flag," Teddy said flatly. "That's not a grievance. That's a federal offense." "No one burned anything," Karen said sharply. "Maybe a board member overstepped. Maybe someone thought they were doing the right thing, but all actions were in line with the guidelines." "Whose guidelines?" I asked. "The ones you rewrote last month without a vote?" Karen's face twitched, just for a second. Then she smoothed it out again. "Frank, I understand you're upset. Number?" "I'm not upset. I'm calculating." Teddy whistled low. That's never a good line to hear from a Marine. We left without another word. Teddy tossed his donut in the trash on the way out. Powder dust trailed behind him like he'd just marked a crime scene. Linda was already outside when I got home. She didn't ask. She didn't have to. Her eyes locked on the case in my hands. "They did it," I said. "They really did it." She touched the edge of the cloth. Her fingers came back black. "What now?" I laid the frame on the porch table, sat in my old chair, the one I built after retirement, back when I thought I'd finally found a place quiet enough to forget what war felt like. The wind tugged gently at the singed cloth. The smell of smoke was still in my shirt, my skin, my chest. Linda sat beside me, said nothing. Teddy returned 10 minutes later. Same flip-flops, no donut. You know, he said, some cultures treat burning a flag as a declaration of war. I didn't look at him. He sat down. You want to go loud? Not yet. I got smoke grenades in the garage. I said not yet. Teddy leaned back. Copy that, Gunny. I didn't sleep that night. That flag wasn't just cloth. It wasn't just memory. It was a promise, a symbol, a silent oath. They thought burning it would make me disappear. But every time I close my eyes, I still see it, folded, burning, reaching for me through the smoke. The only thing they burned was the part of me that wanted to keep the peace. But that flag wasn't the only thing they took. It was just the one I could hold in my hands. What they were about to take next, that would tear open something I thought I buried overseas, something that never really stayed buried at all. The Humvee was upside down. I didn't know that at first. I just knew the sky had moved. I was face down in the dirt, helmet cracked, ears ringing. The world was flashing white and red and black like a broken signal. Ramos was screaming, closer than I thought, but I couldn't get to him, not yet. My arm didn't work right. Something in my chest felt like it was filling with water, sand in my mouth, heat biting into my back. The kind of heat that comes from flame, not sun. The flag flapped once, right above the smoke, wrapped around the wreck like it was trying to shield what was left. I dragged myself toward it, bit by bit. I passed Reynolds. His boot was still on. That's how I knew it was him. I wanted to close his eyes. I couldn't stop. The metal was too hot. I burned my fingers yanking the flag free. It came loose, half charred. The brass grommets melted, edges curled like paper in a campfire, but it was still there, still holding. Then I reached Ramos. He was bleeding out fast. Too fast. I pressed the flag to his chest, not to stop the blood, just to give him something familiar to look at. You're still carrying it, he smiled. Then he was gone. They called it a near total loss. 8 of us. Only 3 came back. I didn't talk on the flight out, just held that flag like a lifeline. When I finally stepped off the bird onto American soil, I didn't cry. I didn't shake. I didn't say a word. I just folded the flag and put it in my duffel. That was 15 years ago. When Linda and I moved into this house, she asked what I wanted. Just a quiet porch, I said, and a place for the flag. So I built it myself, laid every board, measured the shade, positioned the frame at just the right angle so the sun would catch it around 5:30 p.m., the time I'd always hit my bunk overseas. She didn't say much, just watch me build. First day I put the flag out, she brought me a glass of iced tea and said, "Looks good there." It stayed, all through the winters and the VA visits, all through the long, quiet years of trying to forget something my bones had already memorized. Linda never pressed, but she saw what it cost me. She saw the nights I'd sleep out there instead of inside, the way my hands would clench when a car backfired, the way I flinched if someone knocked too hard on the door. And she never once called me broken, just steady. Teddy moved in next door about 5 years ago, loud, friendly, funny, the kind of guy who waves with 2 hands and barbecues in the rain. He noticed the flag right away. "Combat flag?" he asked. "Yeah. You mind if I salute it every now and then? Got one myself, but my dog chewed the corner." I nodded. He saluted it every morning for a month. One evening after a storm, I took the case down to clean it. Teddy wandered over, saw the back of the cloth. Burned, torn, stained with something that wasn't dirt. He didn't joke that time. He just asked, "You carry it out?" "Yeah." "Then it's not just a flag. Number?" It wasn't. A few weeks before the fire, I had a bad night. Dreamed of the explosion again. Woke up on the porch, shirt soaked, palms bleeding where I'd gripped the railing too hard. Linda found me at sunrise. She didn't speak. Just brought a towel, cleaned my hands, and sat beside me like it was just another Tuesday. That's how she loved me, quietly, steadily. That flag was the only thing I ever brought home from the war that didn't leave me. Until Karen. After the burning, Teddy tried to cheer me up. "You know what we need?" he said. "A raccoon in her mailbox. A real one. I've got traps." "Not yet," I said. He flopped into the chair next to mine. "So, what are we doing?" I looked out at the porch, at the empty spot where the case used to sit. "We're waiting." "For what?" "For them to show me who they really are." Teddy grinned. Then what? I didn't answer, because I didn't know yet. Later that evening, while I was sweeping ash off the porch boards, a neighbor walked by. Mrs. Fletcher, HOA loyalist. Always wore lavender and too much perfume. She slowed just enough to drop this. Shame about your little display. I always thought it clashed with the siding. She smiled like she'd just offered condolences. I said nothing, but I marked her. That night, the wind tugged at what little was left of the flag. Flakes peeled away like petals. I placed a paperweight on top of it, a spent shell casing from the last rifle I ever fired in uniform. Linda didn't come outside that time. She knew I needed the dark, and in the dark, I made a quiet vow. Next time someone came for that flag, or what it stood for, they weren't leaving in one piece. And sure enough, they didn't wait long. 3 days later, a letter came, neatly folded, HOA letterhead, big smile on the envelope. But what was inside wasn't just a warning. It was a matchstick. The letter didn't scream. It was cold and smooth, like a scalpel. White envelope. Gold HOA seal, like a sheriff's star. Addressed to Mr. Franklin Delaney. No return address, no apology, just a neat little window and a ticking bomb inside. Linda handed it to me, without a word. No eye roll, no sigh. Just quiet confirmation that this wasn't going to be nothing. I opened it on the porch. Didn't bother sitting down. Notice of violation. Final warning. Section 4.8. Non-conforming display. Clause 12. Improper symbolism on community-facing fixtures. Clause 15. Persistent refusal to uphold neighborhood standards. This correspondence serves as final notice of your ongoing violation. The continued display of emotionally polarizing materials and politically adjacent paraphernalia is in direct opposition to Maple Crest's core values and visual cohesion strategy. Your resistance to aesthetic unity is being documented. $1,000 fine, $200 added each day. 7 days to comply or face legal escalation, including but not limited to forced compliance via municipal partnership. They'd written it like a script for war crimes. Cold, bureaucratic, hollow. But I didn't miss the bite. Emotionally polarizing. That was their new code for, we don't like the kind of person you are. Linda stepped closer, reading over my shoulder. Paraphernalia, she said quietly. I looked down. The flag was still folded on the porch table, blackened at the edges. Apparently, I said, freedom comes in beige now. Teddy arrived not long after, hoodie half zipped, still chewing a granola bar. That the bill? Final warning. He squinted at it. Is it just me, or do these people write like the DMV married a cult? I handed it over. He read silently, then slower. This is... wow. Say it, I told him. He nodded. They're not just trying to shut you up. They're trying to paint you. Enemy of harmony, I said. Violator of neighborhood vibes. Teddy shook his head. They're real brave with envelopes. 2 days later, a second letter came. Same seal, smaller envelope. But this one wasn't typed. It was hand-delivered by a teenager in a Maple Crest intern shirt. Inside, a folded invitation to the next HOA meeting. Top line, mandatory attendance requested. Second line, community disciplinary discussion. Agenda. Item 3. B, the fine wasn't enough. Now I was an agenda item. I didn't react. I just set it on the porch, face up, like evidence. Linda walked past, paused, and tapped the invitation twice. 3 Bs in school meant you passed, she said. Here it means you're about to get publicly humiliated. Teddy, different take. You want me to show up in dress blues and start playing taps the minute Karen says your name? I didn't smile, but I didn't say no. That evening, while we were on the porch, a third note came. This one was handed to me directly. A man I didn't recognize stepped up the steps, held it out like it might explode. From the board, he said, avoiding my eyes. Not Karen? He flinched. She's not handling the optics right now. I took the note. Thanks. As he turned, he muttered, almost under his breath, You didn't deserve this. Then he was gone. Inside the note was something different. All homeowners are reminded. Attendance is strongly advised. The HOA reserves the right to make rulings in absentia should violations continue. Failure to engage will be seen as forfeiture of defense. No lawyer speak. Just a threat. That night, I sat on the porch long after the others went to bed. I looked at the empty case. I reached for my phone, opened my old unit's group chat, typed a name, then stopped, deleted the message. Wasn't time, not yet, but the fact that I almost did it scared me more than any letter could. Linda came out later, wrapped a blanket around my shoulders. "You thinking about the desert?" "No," I said. "I'm thinking about the last time someone tried to take something from me that I swore I'd never lose." She nodded. "Then I hope they know what they've started." The next morning, Teddy came by with coffee. He flipped the second letter over while I poured. "Did you see this?" he asked. "What?" "Back corner, fine print, Section 9 amendment." I leaned in, and there it was. HOA board may authorize property access during compliance emergencies, including removal or modification of visual violations. Teddy looked up. His face was pale. "They're not just trying to fine you, Frank." I felt my jaw tighten. "They're planning to come inside." And that's when I realized the fire was just their first move. The real damage? That was coming next. Because now they weren't just targeting my past. They were coming for my home. The map was red, not just marked, bleeding. Teddy had pulled it up first thing that morning, the second the HOA portal refreshed. It was an internal development doc titled Maple Crest, Zone Optimization Phase 2. But it might as well have been a hit list. My house, dead center, highlighted, blinking. Teddy didn't speak, just turned the screen toward me. The label next to my address read, "Scheduled for strategic transition, unresolved compliance risk." I didn't move, didn't blink, because I knew what that meant. They weren't trying to find me. They were trying to erase me. I opened the full file, aerial maps, lot numbers, shaded overlays. Every red dot was a house I knew. Mr. Lee, Vietnam vet. His flag mural was labeled Visual Obstruction. Mrs. Rodriguez, widow of a Navy cook. Her patio furniture was tagged Non-Regulation Decor. Even the Jamesons, retired Army medics, were flagged under Excessive Memorial Presence. Teddy leaned over me, whispering like the room had ears. "Frank, this isn't just Karen being Karen." He clicked into a tab marked Internal Use Only. There, in plain text, it said, "Long-term owner resistance expected. Use phased enforcement and community isolation to encourage early exits." Community isolation. They were trying to make us feel alone, like we were the problem. Linda stood behind us. She'd read over my shoulder for 3 minutes before finally speaking. "This isn't policy," she said. "This is warfare in khakis." Later that afternoon, a car pulled into our driveway. Not Karen, not Teddy, a man I'd seen once before. Paul, HOA treasurer, soft voice. Always wore polos with little sailboats. He stepped out, glanced around like he didn't want anyone to see him, and walked up with something in his hand. It wasn't a notice. It was a folder. "I'm not supposed to be here," he said, "but you need to see this." I didn't say a word, just took it. Inside were meeting minutes that hadn't been uploaded to the portal. Private ones. Karen's voice echoed in my head as I read, "If we squeeze hard enough, he'll leave. The fines are working. If not, we use option 2. "What's option 2? I asked. Paul looked down. "Private removal order." "Of me?" He nodded. "Of everything non-compliant." He backed off the porch before I could ask more. "I was never here," he muttered, and peeled off down the street. Teddy watched from the side. "This is getting dark, Gunny." "It's already there," I said. That night, I visited Mr. Parks. He was 82, Air Force, carried a cane that he said had more confirmed kills than his plane. "They pulled my flagpole last week," he said. "Said it was interfering with tree growth. I came home from the VA, and it was just gone." He tapped the cane on the ground twice. "Never thought I'd see the day where the enemy wore name tags and planned brunches." Back on the porch, Linda slammed the folder shut. "First they burned what was sacred. Now they're burning what's left of your peace. I'm done being polite, Frank." Her voice shook, not with fear, with rage. "We printed everything, every map, every memo, every fine. Teddy organized it like it was a mission op, color-coded, labeled, stacked. When we finished, I stood in the garage, stared at my old uniform, my hand hovered over it. Then I walked out. "Not yet. Later that night, Teddy found the Zoom recording. He blasted it onto the porch TV. Low-res shaky sound, faces like ghosts behind screen glare. Karen's voice was clear. He's alone. No lawyer, no backing. We just have to break him in steps. Someone chuckled. Then another voice said, "Should we expect retaliation?" Karen again. "Please, he's just a porch warrior with PTSD." I stared at the screen. Didn't speak. Linda reached over and muted it. Teddy didn't say a word, just stood there, fists clenched, eyes glassy. And in that silence, something clicked. They weren't trying to control me. They were trying to erase every trace of men like me from this street, from this town, from this country. But I didn't run from flames then, and I won't run from a clipboard and a bad haircut now. I turned off the screen, walked back outside. The wind had picked up. And for the first time since the fire, I could smell something again. It wasn't smoke. It was war. So I made a call, not to a city official, not to a lawyer, to a man whose voice once cut through battlefield chaos like steel through silk. He didn't say hello. He just said, "You ready? You calling to ask for permission, or are you finally ready to burn it down?" That was the first thing Monroe said when he picked up. His voice hadn't changed, rough gravel over steel, the kind of voice that made people stand straighter even through a phone line. I didn't answer right away, just let the silence sit. Then, "I need your help." Monroe didn't laugh, didn't gloat. He just sighed once and said, "I figured, I've been hearing things, little whispers." Karen's name came up. That got my attention. "You watching HOA boards now?" "I watch everything that smells like control dressed up as protocol. And this smells like rot." We got to work in seconds. Monroe was in a mountain cabin somewhere in Idaho. The wall behind him was packed with maps, military flags, and a whiteboard that looked like it had been stolen from a think tank. "You've got 3 fronts," he said. "Legal, optical, structural. You win 2, the third folds." "Optical? Media, narrative. Make her the villain before she can make you the threat." Linda brought out a notebook and started writing. Teddy set up a whiteboard of his own. We weren't just playing defense anymore. This was mission planning. Monroe gave us a name, Captain Avery Dent, retired JAG, known for taking HOA boards to federal court, and winning. I called her that night. She answered like she was already halfway through the case. "Frank Delaney? Monroe gave me your file. I've seen enough. Send everything." "You believe me?" "I believe patterns, and yours stinks." I told her about the Zoom call, the fines, the rezoning documents, the flags, the threats. She listened, then said something that stuck with me. "Don't go public yet. Let them walk into your trap. Let them think they're still winning." Meanwhile, Teddy dug deeper. He found something inside Karen's financial filings. A second address. "Crestline Management HQ," he muttered. "Guess who's on their advisory board?" He flipped the screen around. Stephen Ashworth, Karen's husband. It wasn't just corruption, it was coordinated real estate manipulation, buyouts, quiet evictions, gentrification by spreadsheet. Teddy swore. These people make cartels look subtle. That night, I opened the garage. The uniform was still there. I hadn't touched it in years. I lifted the jacket, still heavy, still clean, still mine. Then I saw it again. The village, the kids on the bikes. The warning I'd received through the interpreter. "No, go today, not safe." I went anyway, too proud, too focused, too confident. The blast took out the market, took out the road, took out 2 of my own. I watched their bodies get lifted from the rubble like broken marionettes. I stood there with blood in my boots and a voice in my head that never stopped screaming. "You knew." I came home and buried the uniform in a sealed box. Not out of shame, out of fear that if I put it on again, I'd become that man. Linda stepped into the garage. She saw the look on my face. "You're not that man anymore," she said. "No? You're stronger now. You know what you're fighting for." We printed out every document. Teddy labeled them FRAUD. Evidence, media plan, witnesses, press strategy. We mounted a corkboard. We started building the case. Then Monroe called again. "This is bigger than you, Frank." "I know." "Ready to go loud?" I looked out at the porch. Teddy had hung a new flag, smaller, unburned, for now. I stepped outside, into the wind. Unfolded the old flag, laid it back into the new case, lined with glass so thick you'd need a tank to break it. Then I locked it and whispered, "One more mission." But before I could make my move, they made theirs. At 6:12 a.m., 2 sheriff's deputies pounded on the door. Linda opened it and gasped. Because Karen hadn't just escalated. She'd weaponized the law. 3 knocks, not fast, not casual, just final. I'd heard knocks like that before, at bases, on doors where bad news waited. I stood up slowly. Linda was already at the window, robe pulled tight. Her breath fogged the glass. "They're not just here to talk," she whispered. I opened the door. 2 sheriff's deputies, one tall, one wide, both unreadable. "Frank Delaney?" "Yes. You've been served." A crisp folder, cream-colored, civil court header. "This is a temporary restraining order filed by the Maple Crest Homeowners Association," the tall one said. "Effective immediately. You are to have no contact with the complainants. You must remain 300 feet away from any board member. That includes HOA meetings, email contact, or visual surveillance." Visual surveillance? I wasn't a sniper. I was a neighbor. I glanced past them. Karen stood on her lawn, on a yoga mat, mid-stretch. Pale pink robe, matching mug, downward dog in progress. Like she hadn't just declared psychological war. She looked over her shoulder and smiled like a kindergarten teacher. Linda stepped forward. "This is absurd." "Ma'am," the deputy said calmly, "we're not here to judge it, just enforce it." I took the papers, flipped through them, typed statements. Karen's, "Mr. Delaney exhibits escalating hostility. His tone and posture have made me feel unsafe." Board member number 2. "He has been monitoring my car, pacing his property, and behaving unpredictably." Board member number 3. "Given his military background, I believe his potential for aggression is elevated." My military background, used as a weapon, again. Teddy came flying across the yard. "You've got to be kidding me," he said, waving his phone. "Is this because Frank drinks black coffee and doesn't kiss HOA rings?" No response. He turned toward the street. "Hey, Paul," he shouted across the road. Paul, HOA treasurer, flinched, still cool hiding behind paperwork while a woman weaponizes the law. Paul ducked inside like we were radioactive. Inside, Linda laid the notice on the kitchen table. Her hands were shaking, not with fear, with restraint. Then, quietly, she picked it up and tore it, 1 inch at a time, square by square, clean lines, no words. That was louder than yelling. Teddy sat across from me. "This isn't about rules anymore." "No," I said. "It's about narrative. She's trying to make you snap, which is why I won't." But I came close. Too close. My jaw clicked. My hands twitched. I stared at the flag case and saw fire. "My silence doesn't mean weakness," I said. "It means I know how loud things get when I stop talking." Linda handed me her phone. On the screen, Captain Dent. "Frank," she said, "they're building a false profile. Paper trail. Next step is probably full removal. Fines, forced sale, or worse. Worse, arrest. Precedent is thin, but all it takes is one incident. Don't give them one." That night, Teddy posted the video, footage, photos, emails. Karen's aggressive tone was undercut by 3 recorded clips of her being smug, cold, and confident. The video hit 90,000 views by midnight. One Marine influencer commented, "HOA tyranny is real. This is how they erase us." The next day, Linda found the code enforcement tag. Violation, deck railing, $2,400. Fine. The deck was made of pressure-treated combat timber. Stronger than any HOA board member, she sat down, hands flat, back straight. And then, without a sound, she wept. I hadn't seen her cry since her mother passed, not like this. Not heavy, broken, tired. "I don't know how to help you fight this anymore," she said. "I'm just watching them try to take pieces of you." That was the moment. The switch. I stood up, walked to the garage, opened the storage bin, pulled out a folder marked command-level contacts. I made the first call, then the second. One answered in 2 rings, said, "You want noise or pressure?" "Both." And before I hung up, I looked down at the table, at the scattered squares of the torn restraining order. "They want fear," I whispered. but they're about to get memory. The next HOA meeting was public. Karen had her clipboard, her smile. But I had something better, a folded flag, a 2-inch thick case file, and a squad she never saw coming. The parking lot was full, overflow even. People standing outside the Maple Crest Community Center in lawn chairs, leaning on walkers, gripping their phones like torches. Word had spread. The HOA meeting was no longer just a meeting, it was an event. I pulled up in silence, tires crunching gravel. Nothing fancy, no music, just me in full dress blues, door swinging open like a judge entering chambers. Linda stepped out behind me, quiet strength wrapped in a navy sweater. Teddy was already there, pacing by the entrance with a Bluetooth mic, live stream app running. All right, viewers, you're about to see why nobody messes with the Marine's porch. We entered together, me holding the scorched flag case, Teddy carrying a portable speaker with Monroe Live on standby. Behind us, 2 other veterans in uniform, Staff Sergeant Jacobs and Lieutenant Cruz, both local. They heard what happened, volunteered to stand. No one stopped us. Not even Karen. She was already seated at the head table, yellow power blazer, thin glasses she didn't need, clipboard gripped tight like a rosary. She watched me enter with the look of someone expecting theater, but already writing the Yelp review in her head. I walked slow, every step deliberate, echoing like boots in a hallway where decisions are made. The community center was packed, fold-out chairs lining the back, people lining the walls. Mr. Lee stood near the fire exit. Mr. Parks sat stiff-backed in the front. Mrs. Rodriguez clutched her purse like it was sacred. A hush fell as I reached the podium. I set the flag case down gently, centered it. Karen immediately tapped her mic. Before we begin, I'd like to remind all guests this is a scheduled HOA meeting, not a... Avery Dent stood in the second row. Then let's treat it like one, which means transparency, which means records, and tonight, Mr. Delaney is presenting both. Karen's eyes flicked to Avery, then to Monroe's voice crackling to life from the speaker. "Evening, folks," he said, smooth as artillery fire. "Hope nobody minds if I tune in. I've got about 4 decades of national security experience and zero tolerance for fake civics." Gasps. Someone in the third row clapped before stopping themselves. Karen tried again. "This man is not a legal member of the board. He's not on the agenda." "No," I said, calm as steel, "but I'm in the minutes now." Teddy rolled the whiteboard into place beside me. He clicked the projector. The burned flag in the trash was first. Then the violation notice, circled phrases like emotionally polarizing display. The next was the HOA documents marking homes for strategic transition. The restraining order, the Zoom call, Karen's voice, "He's just a porch warrior with PTSD." And then the 23 red-zoned houses, with a bold headline, "Honorable Exits Planned." The room shifted, hard, chairs creaked, whispers rose. One man muttered, "That's my address." Karen tried to keep talking, but her mic was off now. Someone had unplugged it. Teddy smirked. "Oops." Then Paul stood up, the treasurer, pale, sweating. I didn't approve this," he stammered. "Karen told us it was about beautification, that it was temporary." Avery raised her hand. "And yet your signature appears on 3 of the red zone letters." Paul wilted. "I didn't read them." Someone booed. Karen finally snapped. "He's turning this into a political rally. None of this is legally binding." I stepped forward. "Karen, I buried 2 Marines under the flag you burned." The room froze. "My grandfather flew it in Korea. I carried it in Iraq. It survived 2 IEDs, and then it died on your watch, in a plastic bin behind a recycling shed." I let that silence hang like a noose. "And when I didn't crumble, you tried to finish the job with fines, restraining orders, code violations." People were nodding now, even whispering. I turned to the crowd. "Do you know how many people here have been fined for flower pots, for wind chimes, for paint that didn't match the tone palette?" Hands raised, a full third of the room. Karen fumbled with papers. "You all knew the rules? Rules you rewrote last April," I cut in, "without notice, without a vote, and backed by your husband's property group." More murmurs, gasps. Someone recorded it all. "Live on TikTok now." Teddy stepped forward. I've got messages from board members saying they were told to find problem properties to make way for Crestline development. Want to deny it? Karen's voice cracked. None of this proves... Monroe cut her off. What it proves is a pattern, a structure, a siege in khakis. You ran this HOA like a power-drunk tyrant and thought no one would notice. Mrs. Rodriguez stood. I lost my husband's medals. They said they were a tripping hazard. She didn't cry. She just stared. Mr. Lee rose next. They covered my mural, said it was graffiti. It was a flag. My grandson painted it. Then Mr. Parks. 40 years in the Air Force. Never thought I'd be called a visual nuisance. Karen lost it. This is harassment. This is emotional manipulation. These people are just bitter. She pointed at me. You're dangerous. You sit on your porch like a soldier in a watchtower. That's exactly what I am, I said. A watchman. Because while you were rewriting rules to sell off dignity, some of us were making sure our neighbors felt safe. She tried to storm out. Avery blocked her path. You're going to want to stay, she said, for the legal reading. I lifted the scorched flag case high. This is the line. You tried to erase the kind of men who built the roads you stroll down every morning. You tried to silence the people who bled for your right to hold a clipboard. Teddy opened the binder. Charges filed for misconduct, abuse of authority, fraudulent rezoning, and suppression of protected expression. The Marines beside me saluted. Monroe gave the closing line. This isn't over, Karen. This is just the first roll call. Karen sat back down. No clipboard, no words, just a yellow blazer wrinkled with sweat. The crowd rose, clapping now. Slow at first, then louder, then thunderous. I turned once more before I left. To those who fought, I said, to those who fell, and to those who never thought they'd see honor in a rec center again. I held the flag case to my chest. We're still here. The meeting ended in headlines, but peace doesn't live in papers. It lives on porches. And when the new flag went up the next morning, I finally felt home again. The morning air was thick with quiet. No letters in the mailbox, no boots on the porch but mine, no reason to check over my shoulder, but I did anyway. Old habits. The bracket was new, so was the pole, but my hands still shook, not from fear, from memory. Linda stood behind me, arms crossed, silent, waiting. I lifted the flag, clean, folded, untouched, set it into place, clicked the mount shut, stepped back. The fabric caught the breeze and rose like it knew the fight was over. The sun hit just right, red like blood, white like breath, blue like the sky over homecoming. Linda stepped beside me. She didn't say anything at first, just watched, then, soft as wind through cedar. You didn't come home when the war ended, Frank. You came home when the fighting stopped. Teddy walked up the steps with a pink donut box and a stupid grin. No camera today? I asked. He shrugged. Nah, I figured today was about peace. He sat, bit into a donut, chewed thoughtfully. If this porch ever needs defending again, I'll bring the air horns. We sat. No ceremony, no applause. Just wood underfoot, wind overhead, and something in my chest finally letting go. Neighbors passed, waved, nodded. A boy on a bike paused, saluted the flag, and kept riding. A woman left a plate of cookies on the porch rail and walked away without a word. Then the U-Haul came. Karen, sunglasses on, cardboard box in her lap. Paul drove. She didn't wave, but she looked up, just once, toward the flag, toward me. I didn't wave back. They rolled past slow, like a retreat. A few weeks later, I got a letter. Not a citation, not a fine, an apology, unanimous vote. All citations rescinded, all Phase 2 development plans voided. They even asked if I'd consider joining the new board. I said no. I've already got the best seat in the neighborhood. Monroe called once more. Didn't stay on long, just, you did good. Yeah, I said. I stayed home this time. That night, Linda and I sat under the stars. The porch creaked. The wind was warm. And the flag flapped softly, not in warning, in rest. Because sometimes justice doesn't roar. Sometimes it rocks slowly back and forth, right where it belongs.